An Israeli airstrike hit an apartment building in central Beirut this Wednesday morning, the second time a bomb has hit the heart of the Lebanese capital since the start of the war. It came as strikes also hit Beirut's southern suburbs overnight, with Israel continuing to target the Hezbollah stronghold. The Iran-backed group has also been fighting Israeli forces in eastern and southern Lebanon. Well, to speak more about what's happening in Lebanon and the wider region, we can welcome Iva Kovic-Chahine, head of Beirut-based news outlet L'Orient Today. Thank you very much for speaking to us on France 24. I'd like to start, if you can, by just telling us about the situation where you are. I mean, daily life for people in Lebanon, and how does this wave of fighting compare to what we've seen before and recently?
Okay, thank you for having me. The situation is absurd. As you just said, we woke up to a strike in the heart of Beirut. It's the second strike in the heart of Beirut, so not just the Beirut southern suburbs. The last of those in the previous sequence was one day before the ceasefire. So the rules have changed, if there are any. So there's nothing we cannot predict that there's more than 700,000 displaced people on the streets of the entire country after the Israeli army sent out blanket evacuation orders for entire areas. So for the entire South Lebanon and south of the Litani, the entire Beirut southern suburbs, and the Bekaa. It is much more intense in a lot of ways than the previous sequence. One can say, especially that today the American administration itself warrants it in a way or another, which was not exactly the case with the previous sequence, because it was not so open to an all-out war with Iran, which today is the case. Even for us journalists, it's hard to plan coverage of the news, because today our own members of the press have become targets since the 7th of October and continue to be. So it is very hard to plan anything, to organize anything. We move day by day and just try to do the best we can.
Well, meanwhile, the Lebanese president has expressed readiness for direct talks with Israel. What's the likelihood of negotiations, and how might talks play out?
Yes, the president has asked for that. So far, there has been no acceptance from Israel or Hezbollah of the matter, but the public opinion is very much for it. Apart from part of Hezbollah's base, evidently. It's a bit of a vicious circle today in between calls for disarmament and calls for negotiations, because disarmament is a sine qua non condition of the negotiations, as Israel and other actors are saying today. But at the same time, as the chief of the army has said, Israel's attacks on Lebanon are hindering the actual execution of the disarmament itself. And the army is still not doing enough, and not, even though it does have the green light from the government today, it fears internal tensions in between the army, defections. 30% of the army today is Shiite. But if we are to compare the risk that Lebanon runs and that it is already living through today with constant Israeli bombardments, and that of these potential internal tensions, I think that there is a conclusion to draw.
And we'll talk about disarmament of Hezbollah in just a moment. But first, I want to ask you what the general public opinion is of Hezbollah recently. Has that changed at all? I know that your sister publication in French, L'Orient Le Jour, published recently a front page with the headline, Hezbollah Suicides Lebanon. How is the group viewed today?
I think that view is very much prevalent among a big part of the population today, and even between ranks of the Hezbollah base itself. I think that even though it was always a looming possibility that Hezbollah would join that war, everyone had come to the conclusion that they would not do so because there is no point, and it is just too big of something to enter. Yet it happened, and I mean, on the day those 6 rockets were fired towards Israel, I can tell you that the sentiment everywhere was intense rage. It continues today. We've spoken to people on the ground because most of the displaced people are actually people who come from the Hezbollah community, or the larger Shiite community. The rage is there. There are people who've had to rebuild their homes twice, thrice, and are again displaced and on the streets. So that is uh, that leads to a lot of rage, because Lebanon is a small country at the end of the day. So when the conflict expands, it does not expand necessarily just in kilometers. It actually expands into people's daily lives. And there's a point where there's a breaking point for that, I think.
Right, and as we mentioned, it's complicating the Lebanese government's push to disarm Hezbollah. It's a group that still holds a lot of power despite that rage that you mentioned among the public. What will it take for Hezbollah to disarm?
We're already seeing what it takes for Hezbollah to disarm, unravel in front of our eyes, whether it's the Israeli campaign or even its tank movements, incursions on the ground, etc., which seem to be expanding. And Israel's trying to force Lebanon's hand today. Will it succeed? We don't know. It's all of these things are interlinked, whether it's the negotiations, the disarmament. Hezbollah is trying to hold on to whatever it has today, and is still refusing to give up its arms. But there is a corner to come to, and it will all depend on the decision that the army takes and how the army decides to act in the coming days.
Well, Syria has accused Hezbollah of firing artillery shells into its territory. Can you tell us a little bit about that? I mean, it seems to be like this ever-expanding front of the war.
Yes, so Syria, Hezbollah did fire into Syria. It said that it fired in order to defend itself of another Israeli incursion that could come through Syria. I don't have more details on the matter at this time, but it does seem that there is a sort of a third front that might be opening. It seems more or less calm for now. There were discussions between President On and the Syrian side about that, and it's a big unknown for now. But that border is definitely porous, and Hezbollah will try to use everything that it can in order to in order to survive, basically.
All right, Iva Kovic-Chahine, unfortunately, we're running out of time. We'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you very much.